Hey Fractal fans, it's Austin Buddy. And today I want to do a tutorial about how to use and install the new updated 2025 Brit royalty Tonepack. Those of you who aren't aware of it, it's got studio sounds from the first 4 albums of one of the most iconic bands ever. But it's also got a new added 30 live sounds for the next, for those 4 albums plus the next 3 albums, some selections. So I want to walk you through what's in the zip file, things you have to do to install to get this thing to sound right. It's a video tutorial. This goes along with the manual. So let's get after it. Okay, so I want to walk through the 6 steps you need to take to get this Tonepack installed correctly. And you really need to do these first. Don't just go load the presets, because some of these presets use Cab IRs or global custom scales if you don't load them, or they use external pedals. If you don't set this up right, it won't sound right. So let's go through those things. First of all, you're going to get that zip file when you download, and then you're going to open it, and this is what you're going to see, right? You see on screen here. You're going to see that there are folders for all 3 units. Today we're going to look at the FM9 folder because that's what I've got running here. Whatever your unit is, that's the one you want to go to, because they are slightly different between the units in terms of the presets, and in case the FM3, I had to strip a few little things out just for CPU reasons, but I preserved the core sound. So, and there's also an optional SC layouts thing where we can go to a different video at some other point and talk about that. So let's open up this FM9 one. And what you see first is a Readme file, and the Readme file has the user manual, and we're going to go through the 6 steps that are also outlined in it if you want to follow along with that. But it's also got names of the presets and the scenes for the whole bank, both as a text version and as a PDF version, so you can know exactly what you got. You're going to see that the names of the songs are not exactly matching up to tracks for copyright reasons, which makes perfect sense, but you'll be able to figure it out. So in step 2, we've got to install 3 user Cab IRs, and they have to go into very specific slots on your unit, okay? They have to go in user 165, user 166, and user 167. 65 is going to be the Brit, the null preamp. 66 is going to be the room sound that I've got. And then the 67 is a brand new one. If you've had Brit Rock before, but you've never installed this, you're going to need to do this for it to work right for the live sounds. This is a special IR I blended that's taken from Own Hammer's classic rock greenbacks pack, and it's fantastic. I love it. And I'm able to share it with you through the explicit permission of Own Hammer. So I want you to know that. You can use this. They've given me permission for me to share it with you guys as part of this. And thank you again to Kevin at Own Hammer for that, because it really made a huge difference here. So now let's talk about, well, how do I get these files that you see right here into a cab block? Well, the easiest way I would suggest you do this, and the cool thing is you only have to do this once, you don't have to do it for every preset, is come in here to this very first preset, Brit Rock Royalty, and I would set up a cab, just like that, and I would do factory, here we go, user 65. Now you can see mine is already in here, but yours won't say that probably. It'll either say empty or something else like that. Or something you've got in there. This will overwrite what you've got in there, so move those to another place. Then all you have to do, beauty of this, is literally just drag the numbered thing onto this blue lettering here that you see on screen, and it will literally save it to that slot. So this is literally how you do it. You don't have to even use Cab Manager, which is terrific. And now let's change this one to 67, and let's get this last 3rd one in, and we'll be done with this part. But you watch it, you see how the screen changes right here? It just saved it. So now they're locked in there. So that's the easy way to do it. You can also use manage cabs and do it that way as well. But this is the easier way to do it, so do it this way. So once you've done that, you don't have to save this or anything. It's already saved in your unit, and now we can move on to step number 3. All right, for step number 3, what we're going to do is we're going to install some global scales. There are 4 songs in here that use a custom global scale for part of the song. So let's pick one that does that. So this is a song called Ramblin'. You may have heard of that before. And if you notice down here in scene 4, it says solo harmony custom global scale number 4. So in the pitch block, it's pointing to a custom shift scale, scale number 4 right here. But if you don't have that loaded in the right slot, this will not do what it's supposed to do. It doesn't sound right. So here's how you do that. All right, we've got our custom global scales over here in step number 3. And there are 4 of them. One of them says Misty Jump, one says Ramblin'. Notice these numbers, 3, 4, 5, and 6. That tells you what slot to load them into. So let's load one in right now. So I go to Setup, and in Setup, you'll see down here there is a Scales menu. And all I have to do is pick the number of the scale I'm supposed to install. In this particular case, for example, we're going to install scale number 4 for Ramblin'. And then you click Import. Not Export, but Import. And then all I'm going to do is point it on my desktop to that scale that we were just looking at here for the FM9 in step number 3. That's number 4, Ramblin' Global Scale. Okay? You'll see that on screen. And when I click Open, it will load that in here. Mine was already loaded, as you saw. But as an example, I'll just go to, this is random. I'm going to 10, which is blank, and I'm going to show you import, same exact process, and notice it adds them in. So that is important because that is how you get those global scales loaded. So you're going to have to come in and load global scales 3 for Misty Jump, 4 for Ramblin', 5 for Black Canine, and 6 for the new live preset, the Vast Sea. I think you can figure out what those represent. And once you do that, when you're playing those particular sounds, there are going to be notes in each one of those that'll say harmony, and it'll say, does it use a custom global scale and what the number is. So you'll know that that's correctly set up. I've already set it up. Once you've loaded this, it should be fine. There are other harmonies in here, but they're diatonic, so I don't need a custom global scale for those particular sounds. So that's what you have to do to get number 3 done, global scales set up. So let's now go to step number 4. So in step 4, we're no longer needing to import anything, but we do have to do a setup that's very important. It's not shown in this list here, but it is in the manual and it's in this video. And that is to set up your external, your pedals. There are 2 pedals you should have to make this thing work correctly, pedal 1 and pedal 2. But everybody maps their pedals differently. For example, I use an FC controller. I don't put my pedals in the back of my FM9, I use it in an FC12. And so I have to tell my unit when it sees a certain thing to know where to look for it. Otherwise, you'll say, hey, my pedals aren't working, what's going on? This is going to show you how to do it. So I'm going to move this thing out of the way, and we're going to go to something called Setup here, and we're going to go to MIDI Remote. And when you go to MIDI Remote, there are some menu options over here, and one of them is called External. And you'll notice in my external 1, 2, 3, and 4, I have my external 1 set up to pedal 1, and external control 2 set up to pedal 2. In this particular preset, which is a live quarters, that's what it's called, preset, there is a wah pedal. And the wah pedal, of course, has to have a pedal to work with it. Now, you probably have your pedal set up to something called pedal 1, or maybe you have it set up to FC12 or whatever, or something different. I don't set the pedals up that way. I have a universal way to set them up so you can map them to whatever works in your system. So if you right-click on this in the editor, you'll see that mine is hooked up to external 1 for the wah-wah. And for all the wah-wahs, it's hooked up to external 1. So what I have to do is, going back to what I just showed you in this setup, go to MIDI Remote, go to External, and I have to tell this that I want external 1 to look at and listen to whatever is happening at FC1 pedal 1 and interpret that. All right? If you don't have an FC controller, FC6, FC12, and you're not using the jacks in the back of that, you're just going off the back of your FM3 or FM9 or even your XFX3, you want to change this from FC pedal 1, you want this to go to pedal 1 or pedal 2 that you see on this list. And then it will work exactly correctly. Okay? So if you're using something like an RJM Mastermind or an external MIDI controller, you're going to have to determine how to set your pedal up to go to whatever MIDI controller number is and then pick the correct one from that list that you see on the screen in front of you. But for me, I like to use the back of my FC for my pedals, and so that's the way I have it set up. So this is really important because there's not only a wah-wah in these presets, there's also panning that's controlled by pedals. There's a theremin from like a whole lot of you-know-whatta that gets controlled by that. There are reverbs that get controlled by how much reverb or delay. So, and each of these songs that have that, for example, are going to tell you, well, let's go back to our Rambling example for a second here, and you're going to see in Rambling that in the scene name it says external 1 equals pedal 1 reverb. So there are parts of that where it's very dry, and then later he adds a reverb trail using a pedal. So you can do that if you want. You don't have to, but I built that in because I'm trying to match what the album kind of has. Same thing with this chorus. It's the exact same sort of thing. So you'll usually see notations like this. So that's very important to do as you set up. If you say to yourself, I don't have 2 pedals, I've only got 1 pedal, well, you're going to have to find a way to switch them out song by song to get whatever you want to work, because there's not always a wah and everything, but this will tell you whether you use external 1 or external 2. So now for step 5, we need to set up our audio settings correctly. This is important. The studio presets are literally set up to be panned correctly like the album tracks are. So you want to listen to those on a stereo setup. And so you need to set everything up in stereo. And the way you do that is in this setup menu. If you click this over here, this comes up and you click audio, and you'll see that on screen. And then you can set these up to audio, or you can set them to copy left, right. And I set mine up to stereo. An output 3, which is kind of on an FM9, that's kind of a unity gain. I have it set to copy left, right for a different reason. But now, if you play only mono, and you just got one mono way to do it, you want to not do sum left plus right. That's going to cause phasing issues. You want to copy left to right if you're going to do mono. These are going to sound much better in stereo. I highly recommend it. When the live presets, you still want that wet effects thing, which is pretty cool. But you can use them in mono like that, but make sure you use the copy left to right. And then last, I use the output plus 4 dBu. I've got pro audio gear. I go into an Apollo. It sounds perfect. It comes in right at minus 12 dB on the digital meter, which is where you want those signals to be coming in. If you were doing this live through a digital console, it would be the same kind of thing. So you want to set that up correctly. I wanted to make sure you guys understood that. My output knob is usually somewhere between noon and 3 o'clock, depending. I try and think about my unit as a preamp, and I try and get all the volume from my FRs that I'm playing through my speaker cabs. In other words, the power amp there is where I get the volume. And then I just can make small adjustments on my FM3, FM9, XFX3. So there are settings you need to figure out how to optimize for, but if you do this correctly on a digital console, if you're coming out like the digital signal in the back, it's going to hit it at minus 12. So that's important for getting an optimal gain staging thing. And we'll probably do another video on that some other time. So a good short or something like that. Okay, so that's the end of step 5. And now we're at the better part, which is let's load some presets and play them. All right, now it's time for step 6. And step 6 is, how do I load these presets in my FM9, FM3, XFX3? There are 2 ways to do it, maybe 3 arguably. I'm going to show you what they are. The easiest way to do it is in your editor, you go to Tools, and you go to FractalBot, and you pick your unit, like I've done here, and then you've got to go Browse, and you go to that file that we had, okay, on the desktop. I'm going to find it here. And you go to the correct folder for your unit. We're on an FM9. And right down here on FM9, you're going to see there's 2 folders here. One is called Presets by Album, and the other is called the Brit Rock Royalty Bank file. So the bank file is the easiest way to do this, now that you've done the other 5 preceding steps. If you click that and you click Open, then in FractalBot, you will pick where you want this to write. In my particular FM9, for the purpose of the video, I've already written it to bank number D. It's going to overwrite whatever is there right now. Okay, so if you don't know how to use FractalBot, you need to go learn how to use it. FractalBot is not only a way to send things to your unit, you can also back things up by clicking this Receive button on the top of FractalBot menu. And then you can pick a place where you can back all the banks up. They're on your computer. You can always restore them. I'm always backing up files. It's just good hygiene. You never lose anything that way. So, but to install this, you go to Send. You pick the bank file that's correct for your unit and the firmware that's on your unit. These are all like, you have to have firmware 10 or higher to use this Brit Rock thing, which is the latest one. If you try and run this on a lower firmware, the presets will look empty if you load them, because it won't see them. The presets have to see firmware 10 or higher for your unit to see them. And then you click send the file. It'll take a few seconds and it'll be done. And once you've done that, this is what you're going to see. We were looking at this a little earlier here. It starts down here at, and this one on up here. And then I've got the 4 albums. And then I've got a couple of early live presets and then some later live presets. I've also got some bonus ones over here. Some acoustic live, which we'll play a little bit of maybe. And then a bonus one from my 200 plus bass tone pack of the JP Jones one. So there are some empty spaces at the end here. The preset bank is not full. I do intend maybe in 2026, middle of the year, to add maybe some more live presets, maybe even another couple of album ones. Not sure yet. We'll see when we get to it. But this is pretty great, and this gives you plenty to play with. So, and you'll see, of course, that a lot of these are pretty evident what they are, but they're not the actual names. You can always rename these presets to whatever you want them to be if you want to use the track names, for example. Now, there's another way to load presets, and I'm going to show you that right now. All right, and the way you do that is go to Tools and go to Manage Presets. And you'll see you're looking at your presets now. And we're going to look at this. There's a thing over here called Browser, and it should do a show hide here so you can see this screen. Sometimes that pops up open and sometimes it doesn't. If it doesn't, you need to open it. And when you do that, you can come over here to Bank and say, let's open a bank, and let's go ahead and let's go pick that Brit Rock bank that we had for the FM9. Same bank, right? Open it. And there are all the presets. Now, they're not in your unit, they're in the computer's memory. But if you want to audition these, let's say you want to hear the first one, for example. If you click auto-audition and you touch that and see that little line under it, that preset loads into your buffer now. That's actually on the front of my unit now. And then you can change scenes in it and you can check it out before you decide you want to bring it over into your unit. If you decided you like that one, for example, you'd say, oh man, I really like that. You can grab that and you can drag it to whatever slot in your unit you want and click Save. So that is another way you can do that. You can also grab a whole bunch of them at the same time. Okay? For example, I'm going to turn Auto Audition off. And I'm going to drag, I've got the blue up here and I'm going to hit Shift and I'm going to click the bottom one. And now I could literally pull over all this first album's presets right now and click Save. So that's another way to bring them over. Again, a little more complicated than FractalBot. Not recommending it, it's the way to do it, but wanted you to see how that worked, okay? So I'm canceling this because I'm not saving that. Now, the other way to do it is you can just go to Preset, Import, and let's go right there to an empty preset and say I want to bring in a preset because I'm only looking for a few of them that I like, for example. So in the Update folder for your FM9, there is a Presets by Album. You can see right here. 1, 2, 3, 4 live presets, for example. There's something called the Citrus song. I wonder which one that is. And if I click that, that will bring the preset in. And then I just have to click Save, and it will save that preset in that slot. So you can go through and look at specific ones. The easiest way is just to do it by bank. That's how you bring them in.